Alright, well, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to work on a forest area. Now we started a landscape last class, alright, and that landscape was pretty vast. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a much more intimate approach this time, and we're going to really get up close to our subject. Alright, now what we're going to do, this is what we had done earlier in class today. Pardon me as I flip through my sketchbook, but we did this composition here. Alright, basically there's a walkway. Sorry, that glare got in the way. There's a walkway here. Alright, you have small little trails on each side. You got a big tree. It's going to have a huge branch. Alright, you're going to have trees on this side, but the cool part is that this is a descending landscape. Alright, so everything is going to be in the distance, it's going to fall down. Alright, now we've talked about vertical placement in previous lessons. Alright, meaning that, you know, if it's higher up on the picture plane, the further back it goes. Well, the same is true if you go the opposite direction. If you tuck things down, alright, they can also show space, and that's what we're going to do here today in class. Now, what I've got started for you, and even though it looks kind of like a messy arrangement of things, this is your horizon line. We're going to start this time with the 2/3, 1/3 inverted. Alright, so the 1/3 is at the bottom, the 2/3 is at the top. Alright, then you're going to make a triangular shape here, and then we're going to make a large diagonal and then a smaller diagonal that's going to cross. Now, where they actually hit on that triangle, really it's up to you. Alright, but you know, you do want those paths to cross. Now, from the next thing we want to do is we want to put our walking path in. Once again, just sketch. The sketch is going to change. I cannot reiterate that enough. I can't say that enough. Alright, this is just the preliminary thing. This is just the beginning. Alright, no need to, you know, stress out on this part just yet. Alright, now, from here, alright, I do want to section off some areas. This is going to be the place for my tree, my bigger tree here on the left. Alright, but then this little area, and it's not that much raised up, where this one's going to be a lot more raised. This one's going to be slightly bigger. Alright, now at this point I want to do a little bit of work in the foreground, and I know we talked last class and I was like, always work from the back. Get the back of your piece done, get the most furthest thing done. Well, that's true, and we're going to do that, but we're going to sketch the foreground first. Alright, now as I do this, I'm really going to play with the shape of this big tree, because this is an asymmetrical piece. Alright, everything is, you know, there's more stuff on this side of the piece and there's less stuff on that side, so I really want to make sure that, you know, this is nice and taking up lots of good space, that it's laid in really well. Alright, so this is where our focal point will be for this piece. Alright, it's not going to be over here. This is going to be, you know, good information. It's going to be good fodder for people to look at, but this is the main course. This is the piece that, or the tree that everyone wants to be. Alright, now I am going to sketch, alright, where this big tree branch is going to go. Alright, there might be, you know, some little offshoots here and there. Alright, I know there's going to be a small little, you know, baby tree, alright, coming off the side there. It's always going to be competing for attention. Alright, there might be a little bit of an incline there. Alright, then, once I get that set in, and almost kind of drawing over top of, I'm going to put in this little older tree. Now, I say little, but it's not really little. I want to put in this older tree in the back that's going to have a lot more branches. Alright, and here's where we're going to start getting that space issue. Alright, I know that this one is here, it's slanted. Alright, it's a little bit lower down, so I know it's closer to me. So I'm going to put the base of this one, alright, a little higher up on the picture plane. Now, we've done this. That is definitely in our wheelhouse. We've done that concept before. Alright, now where it's going to start changing is as we start moving back in space a little bit. Alright, so our walkway now is going to start increasing a little bit. Alright, we have this high edge over here. That's perfect. Alright, but then I'm going to put in this section. Alright, and then I'm going to kind of shape the top of this a little bit, because I'm going to put in a small little section of trees here, but in the distance, and that's what this little triangle does, it will be for, is going to be some faint, foggy, you know, faded by a huge amount of light source. It's going to go right there. Alright, so we'll tackle those in just a second, but before we do that, let's go ahead and get the visitor to the show. Alright, and that's the tree here. Alright, if this is the main guest, this is the guy that shows up maybe 10 minutes too late for the party. So I'm going to set him in there. There's a little friend back here. Now, hopefully by this point, you can kind of tell that we are in underneath this canopy. All right, the light source is going to be back here in the midground. All right, it's really going to flood this part of the trail, and it's going to flood this big open space. But this is going to get dark, so we're going to have a farther back area. We're going to have a really well lit area, and we're going to have a much more denser, thicker area through here. Okay, so a couple things I'm going to do before we start into the big part of the sketching. I am going to lightly erase some of those forms there. Alright, this harsh diagonal, yeah, I had to draw it in darker for you so you could see it. Alright, that's going to be really important to us. We're going to need that in a second. Alright, but we're only going to need the shape. Just like I needed this shape here, alright, I'm going to need that shape there as well. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to, since I love the number 3, I'm going to put in 3 trunks back in the background. Now remember, we're starting in the back. Alright, so I'm going to lightly, and I mean lightly, put those in. Alright, and then I'm gonna reiterate this hill. Alright, and that's what this section is right here. Alright, and I'm going to take out this because this will be the area where the light is flooding. Alright, so it's going to hit there. So now what I'm going to do, just like in the last lesson, I'm going to make these awesome looking trees, but I'm going to do it really lightly. Alright, for 2 reasons. One, they're in a good distance from where we're at, and number 2, they're going to be behind a big sun blasted area, so that's going to make a lot of haze and a lot of atmosphere between here, or between where we're at and back there. Alright, also our eyes may not be able to focus because we're so in a dark area here in the foreground, which we'll get to, and then this stuff in the background, stuff in the background is having to pass through such an extreme light. So I'm not really going to have a whole lot of like super detailed info back here. Now, as I do this, notice I'm not getting that huge flux of information. I'm not trying to thicken up the bottom of the trees that much. Alright, the reason I'm doing that is because I want this to be a hill. Alright, I want these to be really tall trees. Alright, but I don't want to see the undergrowth. I don't. I want to be able to walk this path. And when I get here, the visual information is telling me that it's going downhill. It's going to go over. Alright, and that's where that inverse of what we talked about with vertical placement. Alright, this line is higher, alright, than those. Alright, I know that, so I know that that is going back into space. But these things, their baseline is going to be way down here. Alright, they'll be connected to the hill on the other side of this landmass. Alright, so to counteract that, I don't want to put in all the huge base or the huge amount of undergrowth because I don't see it. Alright, I see the edge of the cliff here or the edge of the walkway. They are tucked over top of the next section. Alright, so next thing I want to do, alright, I'm going to start moving forward. So this shape here, alright, this is a canopy, but this canopy really is super ridiculously light. Alright, there's trees in there, there's lots of undergrowth, but they're so lit up by the sun that we are not going to see a lot of it. Alright, we're going to see some faint trunks. We're going to see some faint edges, but it's really almost like a ghost. Alright, it's kind of eerie, but it's so lit up. So I'm going to put in a little bit of what would be the canopy of the trees, like the big over, like all the leaves and stuff. But man, it's so lit up. It's going to be so light. Alright, nothing there really is going to have a whole lot of definition. And that's good for us. That's really good for us because, you know, it gives us that background. Alright, I may put a little extra here at the bottom just to tell the viewer that, hang on, there's stuff there. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do, we're really going to jump in to this section. Alright, because I could sit here and play all day with those lighter parts, but if I don't deal with this, then, you know, I could be playing and playing and playing and nothing ever come of it. So what I want to do is I want to, with a little darker pencil or darker pressure, alright, I'm going to use my scribble technique, and I'm going to scribble this tree. Alright, now sometimes I'm going to make bigger scribbles for knots. Alright, sometimes I'll change direction so that I can see, you know, that the tree is supposed to go differently. Alright, I'm going to really just tuck some of these colors. Alright, I'm going to go from wide to not so wide. I may even have a little bit of this branch come back. Alright, great thing about this, and I'll say this and say it 1,000 times, people, when we're doing this is your world. Bob Ross said it well. Alright, make a mistake, make a happy mistake, but create what you want there. Alright, if you think of something better than what you see on here, wonderful. Alright, that's the great thing about this kind of drawing. Alright, now once I set that in, what I want to do is I want to quickly contrast this, alright, with another tree behind it. Alright, now this is going to be nice and heavy. Alright, very circular. The tree behind it though is not going to be. It's going to be almost an outline. Same way with this one. I know this one's supposed to be lit up. Alright, so I'm going to make sure I have a good structure, but then I'm going to leave it. Alright, a little bit of shadow underneath it. Now, as I work forward, alright, I need to, like we did in the last one, really want to put a lot of grass on the edges of the walkway. If this is a national forest, you know, they may not have went out and mowed this trail yet. They may have just let it be natural. Alright, I'm even going to throw in some wildflowers. Alright, that's what these little darker specks are. I know it looks better on my side of the world, alright, because I don't have that extra glare. Alright, now I'm also, as I do this, I want to leave this back here wide open, no color, but then I want to start adding value and adding color in here as it comes forward. Alright, there might be a little darker section there, maybe a just rain. Alright, maybe some mud or a puddle. Alright, now I could easily take this concept and fill up this whole space, but just like here where I've got this really heavy dark tree, alright, and I put a white one by it, alright, we want that good contrast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay heavy for a second. Alright, I'm really going to texture up this grass, and I'm going to do that here along the edges as well. but then as I come toward the foreground, I'm really just going to, I don't want to say laze it in or be lazy about it, but I'm going to be a lot broader with my strokes. Alright, this is much more concise, it's much more heavy. And what I like about this method is that it shows me where my eye should be going. So I've got this heavy stroop here, alright, it's all, no, I'm sorry, this heavy tree here, alright, and it's all nice and jagged and curly. Alright, we've got all kinds of cool things there. I got this lighter part behind it. Alright, and then I've got this heavy textured grass that goes down this way. Alright, so that's another indicator of where my eye should go. Alright, so I like that. I can put in, you know, every now and then a couple of heavies. But if I color all that in, it really just kind of makes it too heavy. Makes it really bottom heavy, so we don't want that. Alright, so let's do a little bit of, you know, rethinking here, possibly a couple of reshaping of some stuff back here in the background. Maybe reiterate a couple of things. Alright, cool. So I'm going to let the left side pretty much just hang out like that. I'm sorry, the right hand side hang out like that. Now, I'm going to come over here to the left. Once again, I'm going to leave this nice and loose. Alright, it's very light, not a whole lot of info should be there. Alright, so the info is going to come in the middle and the foreground tree. Alright, so let's do this. Let's do a little bit of light shading. Now with this piece, or this tree, I'm going to do a lot of broad hatching. Alright. So I'm going to change directions. Where this one was a scribble, this one I'm going to be hatching. Alright, variety is the spice of life, people. Alright, so being able to change your techniques a little bit. Alright, so scribble over here. Alright, lots of textured, thick mass there. Alright, with a wide hatching here. Alright, we get a nice covering. Some areas like the back here around the tree trunk, I am going to want a little bit of thicker, darker lines. Maybe in the shadow part there's a little bit of extra. Alright, so that is supposed to be coming this way. So thicker but not too thick. Alright, now here comes the heavy part. So at this point, you'll probably use one or two different pencils. I really haven't told you to change. I really told you more about pressure. But this is the part, this left-hand side is going to start getting really super ridiculously thick. Alright, so I do want to do a couple of things. I want to make just some impressions of some different trees or values back here, because I do have a lot of open space. But there's so much info back here that I don't need to overkill it, and I don't need to make it too detailed. Alright, because this tree in the front is going to do a lot of, you know, basically a lot of anchoring of this piece. Alright, it's a good word, anchoring. Alright, so what I'm going to do, heavy pressure, possibly a different pencil, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on this tree, and I'm really going to change directions. I'm going to design some bark. All right, I'm going to take up some more space. I may add some different limbs in than what I originally sketched. I'm going to have a heavy shadow, like a super thick shadow underneath this big monstrosity. I originally had a little baby tree here. There's definitely one back here in the background. Now, where this one back here was really light and the hatching was very far apart, this one not so much. Alright, you want the hatching really close together. You want it really trying to resemble the texture, the scratchiness, the graininess of the heavy old tree. So like that was too far apart. So I'm going to go back in, put in some smaller hatches. Think about your shapes too. See here, I'm going to, toward the bottom, I am going to throw in the trunks, alright, that they're kind of twisted and turned. So in that case, use those outlines, have some heavy areas, alright, but then work your hatching in and out of that. Need to finish that up in the corner. Alright, cool. So, before we go on, I do want to add in a little bit of a rock here. Alright, this is going to save us a little bit of hand space and a little, because we've already been putting in a lot of heavy color there. So this is to give us a place to breathe. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, alright, since this is the old mother tree, alright, I do want to give it its just due, and I want to put all of its followers, all of its nice little grassy friends in there. Now, as we did in the last project, know that rocks, the edges have, a lot more grass shown. Alright, so at this point, we're going to look at this and make sure that we have all the info that we need. Alright, we have big tree trunk here in the center, or in the left hand side. Alright, we got its buddy over here on the right. We have some ghosting of some trees over here. Alright, I'm going to just kind of encapsulate some of these trees. And I'm going to erase out just a little bit more. My hand is smearing a little bit. I want that nice and light. So then as it starts working toward me, there should be nice heavy color. So that creates a little walkway as we push forward. Now remember, these are quick sketches. I mean, we're 25 minutes in to a sketch. Please feel free to add, take away, adjust. Alright, the idea, background drawing, or I'm sorry, background trees flooded with light through the center. So this is a huge open space here on the edge of the cliff that's getting light. Alright, you are just walking out of all this thick underbrush. And that's what this tree is. That's why it's so ridiculously dark. Alright, so make sure you constantly adjust. Please take this, finish it, add more to it. I know you've seen this taken to fruition. Here's another example of what we have done with this. Alright, so these are sketching techniques. I cannot reiterate that enough. Alright, they're not totally finished drawings. These are drawings where you're capturing the essence, you're capturing the essential information. Alright, you're working lights and darks, you are developing composition. Alright, so don't think that you have to do amazing jobs every time. Alright, you're learning, you're still focusing on growing as a young artist. Alright, so that being said, thanks once again for watching the video. I hope you had a great time, and we will see you next drawing lesson. Keep sketching, peeps, and we'll see you next week.